Let's go into the 1 times 1 equals, or as Terrence Howard said, should equal 2. The 1 times 1. See, I use the example of el hombre fue creado por Dios. That means man was created by God. So when I see the word por in Spanish, por Dios, and by God, por and by, okay? If you're going to use, because you know how, what's crazy, we have gematria, we have a lot of meaning behind numerology and whatnot. There's numerical value to certain words. But when we use the word por and by, it's the multiplication table. But when you're trying to multiply something by itself, you're still always going to get 1, which is funny because if man created by God, it's 1 with God. So math is telling you the truth, right? 1 God, 1 man still equals the 1. The moment that you have the 1 times 1 should equal 2, it's only going to happen that way. If anything, it should be 1 times 0 would equal to 2. Okay? And that's not what I'm claiming. But if I'm looking at it in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, because when I see a 1, I see the phallus. That's a masculine times a masculine, you're going to get the same masculine. Okay? If you have 1 masculine times a feminine, okay? And this is the split, basically the portals of how you even got here, determines now, based on multiplying it by itself, would either be a 1 or a 0. Okay? So you notice how it says 1 times 0, technically by math is 0. It's going to be feminine. Because what's funny is he talks about how in one of the clips, and I'll clip it to this video, it shows where he says that a masculine, you go always from masculine to feminine. So if you go masculine 1 times 0, you're going to go into feminine. Now, you can't equate this as far as action times inaction because you would have to paint a picture as far as to what context you're coming from. Because if you make a video, that's an action. And numbers are not action, but we're going to get into this. You have an action, you make a video. I create another action by watching the video. That's 2 actions now. Now, I can react to the video. That's an action times an action could equal a reaction, but it didn't multiply your video. Because the whole action was based on your video. So what action, and I would have to have him explain this, do you equate an action times an action would equal a reaction of itself? Doesn't make any sense to me. Because even if I tell you this is 1 pen and I want this pen 2 times, then I'm going to have 2 pens. But even if, let's say, I'm in the realm of polarities or the duality, the illusion of duality, and I have another person next to me and I hand them this pen and I tell that person, hand me this pen 2 times. If I say hand me this 1 pen 2 times, he can only hand me the same pen 2 times. I'm only going to still have 1 pen. Now, if I tell him hand me pens 2 times in my hand, he can, and he has more than 1 pen, then I can have more than 1 pen in my hand. I'm going to have 2 pens because probably he had 5 pens. But supposedly he only had 1 pen and I tell him, hand me pens 2 times in my hand. Didn't matter if he handed me the pen 2 times. I'm only going to have 1 pen because there was originally only 1 pen. You're here by your fucking self in this reality. On a quantum level, we look at things being quantified. That's all based on quantity. Because that word quantum comes from the Latin word quanto, quantity. How much? Quanto. Now, if you're quantifying your worldview to me, you're going to tell me a story. And that tell me is cuento. You see, you can use that same word, the same way you have the word rights. People swear they have rights, but you really don't have rights because they're affirmed in the negative. But you made it a reality. Okay? So if I tell you to quantify a worldview to me, you would have to tell me. And that's a cuento. But when you tell me cuento is an expression, you're quantifying that. Now I'm creating mental pictures to put together what it is you're saying in the form of words. So I'm quantifying it in the form of words, but it's all mathematically, synchronistically happening. Because even on a deep level, my vibe attracts my tribe. I'm technically talking to myself. I'm arguing with myself. So if you're telling me un cuento, which means you're telling me something, you're telling me a story, and everybody's full of stories. It's about who's the best storyteller. But don't forget, because look at the Bible. The Bible's the greatest story ever told. And everybody takes this story literal, takes it literal. So you're taking this story in a way it wasn't designed for you to intake it. So now what happens? When you take this story, the greatest story ever told, you are buying into it, okay? And you're creating a worldview, which is creating a reality. And based on numbers, because teamwork makes the dream work, we have a reality, okay, that's feeding energy to a system that's governing the planet in the form of religion. You don't have to listen to a goddamn word I'm saying. But the words are there, the numbers are there. Math is a language in and of itself. Why is Darkseid in the comics looking for the anti-life equation? Suppose that this was a realm that you're meant to overcome. Would Darkseid be the bad guy and Superman be the good guy? Or would now Superman be the bad guy? And Darkseid, which is the regenerative side of chemistry, because it's the alkaline negative side, attractive drama. But if it's imbalanced, it's attractive drama. Or it could be attractive regenerative. So you now build your worldview upon the notion that you are actually God and not looking for a God outside of you. How much more of a fulfillment would you actually feel if you were vibrating to a different tune, if you're dancing to a different tune? Because in this realm, it takes two to dance. That's why I use the example one-on-one, one versus one. It's crazy because you see the word verse. Even though there's two, okay, it's always going to be one dance that's created out of those two because they're leaning against each other. So when you see good against evil, if, let's say, for example, in a strange world, the evil ceased to exist, how would you know this is even good if you don't have anything supporting this? You would have to have evil here supporting good, and that's how you have a reality that you're experiencing here. This realm is ran on polarities. But the thing is, you're associating with something because you have to understand that you're in the world, but you're not of it. The Bible tells you this. There is no bad and good. You create the bad and good because it's in you. And because you're not conscious, you polarize to one side. Regardless if you're polarizing to your idea of bad or good, you're still coming out of a negative state because you are basically creating an adversary becoming Satan. If you're polarizing, that means that you're against something else. That's adversarial position. But when you're neutral, okay, and you can see the big spectrum of things, you're in the world of God. No different than you're actually the promoter of an organization that depends on two sports teams going up against each other. And the way that you would make money is people buy into their teams, not only with monetary gains, because you're going to be making money because people are interested in their teams. They're going to watch their teams based on spectator sport. You make that money. But the biggest currency on the planet is actually the attention, the amount of people that are even into the sport. Right? You'll have companies paying billions of dollars to get into the most important part of the event, which is the marketing part. That's why the commercials are very, very big. The commercials are probably bigger than even the entire game itself. Because your attention is the biggest currency on the planet, not the money that you've invested into watching a sport or watching a game or participating in the sport itself. All the cheers and all the, all that is energy. And where do you think that goes? Suppose that you started to invest your energy in ways where you now start to manage it. You're being the CEO of your business because you're minding your business and you're not really minding the business of things outside of you, but you mind your business, okay? You're going to operate as one well-oiled machine because where do your interests come from? Okay, where do your desires come from? Suppose that you're imbalanced, you're full of different brains. Suppose that you're over-sexual, over-lustful. Your consciousness is in your lower root chakras. And that's what's ruling you. That's why you're chasing your dick all day. Okay, some people are too intellectual. Those are the real airheads. Because in my opinion, the more education you get, the stupider you actually are. Because you cease to lack something very important called common fucking sense. Now, when your heart is imbalanced, you may say yes to everything and you don't have the strength or the fucking grounds to say no. Because this is a grounding energy. So your heart is open and vulnerable to being heartbroken. But when you're aware, you are the conscious mind, that's the masculine energy, you know what to allow into your consciousness. But when you have a heart-brain coherence, that's where the conscious mind is online and basically you're well grounded. But you have dominion over the animal kingdom, which is what we were calling the lower realms, below the heart space. But some people completely are not even in the heart. They're just up here. So they see their world just through the blinds. That's it. This is the dome and the earth looks kind of flat to them. But the reason the earth looks flat is because you're here. But when you take the dive, now you start to create shapes, right? Now you're in the heart space. You could go even deeper into the abyss. When you go into the abyss, you may find aliens, the Loch Ness Monster, Godzilla, whatever they show you in movies. Stuff that you're trying to find in your exterior world under the water. How many people have accomplished to do that with today's technology? I don't see many people, right? How many people are trying to go out of space? Why we never went back out of space since we went to the moon? Because it's not possible. We have the technology that we have now. It would be almost impossible for them to fake it like they did at one point. So, I mean, common sense. It's just common sense. Aliens. Billy Carson said that Jesus is half alien, half man. He was half alien, half man. You know why that is? Because he doesn't know himself. Alien is just outside of your knowledge. That's all it is. It's alien to you. And when you're alien to something, you're just basically an extraterrestrial. You're a space cadet. That's why you have to center yourself, come back to center. And being self-centered, nothing wrong with that, because when you're self-centered, you have more to give. Some people know, or at least they put themselves in the position to try to help others, but they can't really even help their immediate family members, or more importantly, they can't even help themselves. It's like Abraham Lincoln says you can't help the poor by being one of them. How could you give to the poor if you're one of them? Some people, they watch debates, they watch things online, and I'm telling you, they don't understand what they're even listening to. But yet they give opinions because they think they know what they're talking about, because they're just up here. And I just said, if you have a heart-brain coherence, you have all your organs functioning as one well-oiled machine, you are the real universe. And universe, these new ages, is just a fucking fancy word for God. Oh, God brings me gifts because I, prayed to him, or I'm blessed, right? And this new agey thing says, I have a positive mindset, so I'm blessed by the universe. You are the universe. The universe is one song, universe, one great song. You're actually free of diseases, free of corruption. You're pure. You're one well-oiled machine. All your chakras are functioning properly. There's actually tests that show if all your colors are actually functioning in proper order, where they're all aligned. Some people may have their lower root chakras a little bit bigger than all the other chakras because they're into the world of lust. Some people, their solar plexus may be open because they want to. It's like an ego expression. The devil loves that too. It's all lower animalistic natures, right? Everything that you see outside of you is a reflection of yourself. So when we go back into the 1 times 1, uno por uno is still one, okay? El hombre fue creado por Dios. Man was created by God. You can have a 4x4 piece of wood, right? 4x4. You have 1 by 1. You have a line of many different people, but you go 1 by 1 past the line, okay? It's always going to be one individual, but we are all one. If you're looking at it from the bird's eye view, from God's perspective, we are all one. So even when you say man created by God, there is not even a separation there. But when you see from the Bible, the creation story, that woman came out the rib of Adam, okay? Now you're looking at polarities. Man and God, okay, from the perspective that we're looking at, it's even when you see that he breathed the breath of life into Adam, okay? How did all this happen? All this happened in the mind. Because if you're in a dream, you notice how upon you thinking about it, things just manifest. This whole creation story is just all a story to tell you everything happened in an instant because it's in a dream, and everything started to slow down in vibration. Everything started to solidify. The more people started to expand and multiply in the universe. But everything, we're all still just one. So the math is great. I mean, I've tried to find videos on Terrence Howard explaining that. Maybe that's just something that upon meditation, pondering and listening, I'm like, okay, maybe even the people that critique them, I tried to go into people critiquing videos about him, and they're just going more into the logical science of it. I've seen scientists debunking him or trying to tell him that he's ridiculous, you know, but only because he's trying to, it's still a dual, he's still in duality. You get what I'm saying? If you're integrating good and evil, you can see how they work together. I'll give you an example. Angels and demons. People say they can never work together. This is how you look at science and spirituality. But angels and demons can work together, and so can science and spirituality. It's just that we are looking at it from the perspective of man. Okay? And this is how we fell into sin. Because if you look at it, okay, we're in feminine energy. A sin is a negativity. Okay? And this is where we went from positive to negative, the masculine to feminine. So what we did is we stopped being God to become more man as the individual. But then we tried to fit in. We are social creatures, so we try to fit into humanity. Now we blended in and merged with the AI of humanity, because humanity is an artificial intelligence. This is man, the source, God, merging with AI. And now we created technology. And do you notice how now we stop being more man-like or more human, let's say, more human, to now being more robotic? Look how we stop being even as social creatures in a dinner table to be more on social media through the internet. So we stopped even communicating with our immediate family members because we're so interested in what social media is doing. That's our new, now we're merging with technology in that way. You want to find things out like Terrence Howard or let's say Eric Weinstein. What are they doing? They're depending on technology to feed them all the knowledge, and then they go up against each other. They never find common grounds because technically I feel like Terrence Howard knows what he's talking about from his worldview. It's just that he can't quantify it or integrate it to have an actual scientist understand it. And not only that, but a science is now like an old man. There's no water to it. It's just like old people. They're rigid, stiff. It's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's like that. They're very indoctrinated and ingrained. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to go out and change the world? It's not going to happen. It's like trying to get rid of evil. It's not going to happen. Creation's created. You can only change and shape your circumstances. So much so that you may even evaporate from this reality. See, I believe that once upon a time, the reason we can't replicate the design of these pyramids with even today's technology is because those people were on a certain vibratory state. Energy, frequency, and vibration. And like attracts like in a way where your vibe attracts your tribe, or you can't hold yourself here in this reality that's so low vibrational that because you were so high vibrational, you just disappeared even from this reality. It's sort of like a Mandela effect. I remember that at one time, it was said that when I was watching Star Wars, Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father." Now all of a sudden it's, "No, I am your father." What does it mean? It means that whatever reality I remembered about that, it doesn't even exist. As if it never even happened. Because a variable was changed. Many people bought into it. Something happened, a variable was changed along the way. So now do you see how I said that man went into feminine energy? So in order for you to overcome humanity, you would have to get into masculine energy. But that's the conscious mind. That's what truly being conscious is. People say, oh, that person's conscious, that person's not conscious, that person's woke. Woke is just you're aware of your masculine energy and you shed light on the negative natures of your evil, whatever you want to call it. But it's not about getting rid of evil. You integrate evil. You integrate science. You integrate spirituality. You integrate these things together. So if you are able, like Terrence Howard, to have a scientist who's closed-minded, integrate it, then, I mean, that's a miracle of life, right? But it's like trying to have the stronger the hero, the stronger the villain. So it's like resistance makes stronger. So that's why here love is the answer. Love neutralizes imbalanced chemistry, and because we're in a realm that regardless of how distorted or evil it looks to you, it's only evil and distorted because that's within you and you're observing those things. But once you can observe that those things you're observing outside of you are the corruption within you, you correct those things, life actually turns out to look a lot brighter and a lot more colorful for you. Because actually, the more conscious and spiritual you are, the happier you should be. There's people who become conscious and aware, they go into depression, and then they can either have one or two ways. There's the crossroads. They can become enlightened and become a blissful being, or they can become a terrible being. And how does this happen? Because they don't realize that these negative natures are within themselves, and they become conspiracy theorists. They start to point the finger, and that's where we at. Humanity looks that way. The reason I say that doesn't matter how corrupted or distorted it is, your reality, regardless of how evil wars, doesn't matter. It's still the fundamental roots of it is love. Love is the glue that holds everything together. It's not an emotion that is polarized to being bad or good. Love is what is a chemistry that holds things together. Fear paralyzes and dismantles things. Love flows. Love is movement. That's why everything vibrates. It could be low vibrational or high vibrational. Even if it's the lowest vibrational thing, it's still vibrating. Fear is paralyzing. There's no movement. That's real death. And everybody is rooted and fundamentally coming out of fear. Regardless if you're trying to do the most righteous acts, being the best Christian ever. If you are not in your proper, grounded, negative energy, then you are paralyzed in fear. You're only doing it because you're buying into it. You're selling it. You're only doing it because you want an exchange for going to heaven. Because if you don't do good, then you go to hell. You're afraid that God won't be with you. That's the only reason you do good. That's what humanity is doing. Humanity is doing whatever they're doing, and it's predominantly good because they're mainly in fear. They're not aware that they are the ones really with the power to change everything outside of themselves. And I can see that through debates. I can see that through the people even arguing online, like Eric Weinstein and Terrence Howard. Billy Carson lost in the fucking sauce too. And yet we look at these people like God. Why? Because they know some scientific words, long ass words. Common sense is lost in everybody. Same thing with people who are like extremely religious. This life is based on chemistry. Masculine, feminine, positive, negative, acid, alkaline, electric, magnetic, electron, proton, neutron, man, woman, creation. I mean, look at the word again, quantum. Quantum is cuanto, cuento. Yo te cuento un cuento. I'm telling you a story. People may say these are word games. Either way you put it, I can use the word female. You're always going to equate that to a girl or a woman. Regardless if you want to look at it from the perspective of negative energy, or let's say an electrical. You have a negative prong and a positive prong, right? Either way you put it, negative, female, woman, girl, it's all correlated with each other. And you know what? Semantics in debates are actually extremely important. Very, very important. Because it challenges your worldview, but it also challenges why you're even in that position to begin with. And everybody that speaks, do you actually sit with yourself and say, why do I have this position? Why is this my worldview? Why am I seated here saying the things I say? Why am I making videos? What's the purpose? What is my assignment? Have I called on the name of the Christ? Zigzag, Peter, whatever your motherfucking name is. We are all one. You're dancing to your tune. I'm setting the band. Sweet chin music. If you're not aware, boom. We're going to talk about the flower of life. Because this is a beautiful topic that Terrence Howard talks about. Flowers open. Do you ever force a flower to open? No. But you can also look at a flower and you can look at everybody in life is the flower of life. Everybody's the flower of life. And I'm going to do that in another video because I don't want to make this video long. It's going to be another topic. And I feel like that would be another, I'm going to cut it here and I'm going to talk about the flower of life. But masculine, feminine energy is just a chemistry. These are tools that you use. Everybody has it within them. I have feminine energy within me. Can I use that feminine energy to my advantage? Okay? If you're a woman, you have masculine energy in you. Okay? The same way they say women were just designed to reproduce and have babies, according to Pearl Davis and all these stupid ass fucking people online. But a woman is supposed to be doing exactly what she's doing, which is basically overcoming humanity. When you have a couple union and uniting, that's overcoming humanity. You're basically merging. You're becoming God. That's a representation of God. You could do this with yourself or you could do this with a partner. But once you do this with yourself, you're more than likely to attract a partner that you can actually do this with. Where the sex and the chemistry, I mean, it'll really light you up in ways that, like a Christmas tree, you've never been lit up before. When people say, you turn me on, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. You could turn me on by getting my dick really erect. Or you could turn me on in ways where, not only that, you lighting up all the fucking elixirs in my body that are all stimulating all these things outside of me to be able to harmonize my chemistry. Everything's sexual, but not from the lustful space. Because there's a difference between having sex and making love. Anyway, we'll talk soon.